Shut up and sit down.
Welcome back to Loud, Confused, and Ready. We are your hosts, Sam,
Cam,
Kip,
Elliot.
In this segment, we're going to talk about Obama's tour to Japan. All right, and he's going and apologizing without apologizing for Hiroshima.
So I didn't actually see his official statement.
He's made many on his tour. And the language, he never apologizes, which is important to state.
Yep.
But the language insinuates that our bad dropping the A-bomb and whatnot was an atrocity. Mm-hmm. And we're sorry. But without saying we're sorry.
Okay. Which is understandable.
Initial thoughts before I get into some stuff I drew up?
I think it's a great thing because I think it was one of the lowest points in not only American history, but human history. We literally used two weapons that have never been used again because even the quote unquote bad guys of the world right now realize they're so destructive. Nobody wants to use them because they're such a shitty weapon to use for everybody involved. And taking innocents' lives is absolutely terrible. It was a war crime. I mean, we literally performed a war crime when we did that. By its strictest definition, I believe, right?
So I'll get into that.
Okay, cool. You would know better than I.
Kip?
So.
I agree with Cam. I think that while it's not necessarily, it's not President Obama's fault, if that is something that the country wants to do is apologize for stuff, then it I guess falls on his shoulders to do that. Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, Cam's right. We bombed the shit out of them, and that was bad.
Elliot?
We don't know what the alternative would be if we didn't, so there's no way for anybody to really say, well, we did it for the good of everybody, or the alternate, which is, we shouldn't have done that because everything would have been fine anyway. We have no idea.
I certainly don't think that an apology is necessary. Japan in that day was significantly different than it is today. Like their mentality and the way that they fought and the way that the Americans were fighting was very bloody. That put an end to a very bloody conflict, and it happened very swiftly. I do think it was there was a very significant loss of life that is just catastrophic and shouldn't be repeated. I agree there. I think Obama kind of affirming what it was and that it was sad and very devastating for Japan and the world is a good thing. But I do kind of think that he shouldn't have done it during Memorial Day when that's like a time for America.
All of our soldiers lost their lives.
Remembering our soldiers. I think that was kind of a bad move.
Okay, I'm actually going to hold my actual opinion until the end, like I've done before, and kind of do all these facts and whatnot. We'll discuss this, and I'll explain my side of it. So 1930s, the Russo-Japanese War was essentially finishing up.
The what Japanese?
The Russian-Japanese War.
Okay.
All right, and that actually involved China as well, where Japan was pretty much like the Nazis in that they were being very imperialistic and they were going through. Russia had the Navy that was in conflict with Japan and was really halting their progress. China had always been kind of in conflict with Japan for a while, and this was really the big expansion point for it. I'm going to pause on this and get to the war crime. It wasn't a war crime because for months leading up to it, we dropped leaflets explaining that this was coming, it was inevitable, and to evacuate these cities and whatnot. So technically, it's not a war crime because we did everything within our power to minimize casualties. Whereas, I'll get into actual war crimes.
Okay.
In just a moment.
Cool. So we're clear.
So our conscience is good.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bye, guys.
Don't worry about it. Have a good night.
Don't worry about all the radiation and all that stuff.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay, so what wound up happening was Japan won against China and Russia. So they wound up absorbing the resources from China, most of China, not the entire. And then the Navy from Russia, and then they also had that open Pacific there. Now, so then what naturally happened was their progression went across the Pacific. China had stopped the cost of taking the victories in China had actually halted their expansion on the ground. So then they turned all their and I might be oversimplifying some of this for anyone who's listening that's historically speaking these things happen,
that is necessary. We can't necessarily discuss.
We are not experts. We are
I'm not going to go through
history
a 2-hour seminar about this.
If we are wrong, tell us in the comments below.
Yes, exactly. Get a hold of us on Twitter in the comments below.
Actually, China was fine. Thank you, comments man.
Nerds. Okay.
You guys don't know shit about China of 1930s.
So they were very militaristic.
You weren't even there.
They were nationalists. They were imperialists. Something that was highly noted in the 1930s conflict they were having was the Nanking Massacre. All right. That happened where they first cut off in the Yangtze River, where they had cut soldiers off and they had surrendered. And then they wound up mutilating them, killing them, shooting them down, stuff like that. Which there was no code or etiquette for war. There was no Geneva Convention, right? There's no sort of grounds. There was and has kind of always been a civility to war for most nations, where they're like, yeah, let's not go past this line, but let's murder and kill and do all these things. So like maybe not like rape and pillage and burn, but just normal killing.
If it kills you super hard, don't use it.
Or like very slow and just the worst way, which is what Japan did. Their captivity rate, their captivity lives, like prisoners of war and stuff like that. There almost nobody lived, because they would keep them for a time, they would starve them, they would torture them, they would mutilate them, and then they would slowly kill them. They would do this to non-military, especially. They would go and siege a town or city where they knew that there was nobody in, military-wise, or where there was very few. They would go and they would collect it, and then they would have people walk down the streets, go into the houses, and then murder all the families in very creative ways. Raping, mutilations, atrocities, and safe zones, which was huge because they agreed to safe zones as a nation. They said, in this place is no man's land, so where people who were trying to evacuate, places can go, and then they would go and occupy that place and then murder everybody who would show up from theirs and the enemies. So if Japanese people were trying to hide type of deal, they would murder them as well for not being nationalists. And then on their side of it, as they were going on, they did what any victor would do, and they were rewriting it to take away from all those things they either didn't happen, or the people who were there were some sort of threat to the nation, and all those families deserved to be pulled out into the streets and raped and murdered. Wow. So there have been studies done. I didn't note them, I should have, but where the death toll, because this would have been a land war, speaking on what Elliot was saying, this would have been a land war. It would have been, B-52 bombers type of deal, where it would have been small-time bombs, bunker busters, and things of that nature, and tanks, small tanks, whatnot. They had more people. They had more manpower than most other nations and stuff like that, and they were aligning with the Germans to an extent. So the death toll would have been higher projection. Like, it's a higher projected death toll is what I mean to say. And so it's been argued that dropping this bomb was terrible for the innocents that were lost and the environmental effects thereafter, but it wound up stopping anyone's use or desire to make anything bigger than that, make anything, to an extent, and use it. And then on top of that, it was, we pulled out the big punch and then we stopped, and everyone decided to get together and stop. And then the nation who was hell-bent on nationalism and imperialism from the start, from feudal Japan on, was also stopped in its tracks. And then, they just switched over to economic imperialism. It's fine. But so saying all of that, dropping all of that on you guys, Cam, what do you think?
Okay, so a lot of interesting information there. A lot of stuff I didn't know. So I guess what I can take away from it is, yes, it's projected to be a positive in the form of in the ways that you said. It reduced the number of deaths theoretically. I don't know if those numbers include all the radiation damage and lingering effects of the people that didn't die right away and are still living a terrible life with melted faces and arms.
I don't think they do.
So that it still doesn't justify it for me. Even and I like the point you made of everybody got together after the we basically said there was no bar set, and we go, well, is this going too far? Well, we don't know yet, so let's just try it. And oh, yep, that was too far. Sorry,
we shouldn't have done that.
To counterpoint,
now let's nobody else do that. It's okay, we did it, but you guys go ahead and don't do it. We're not going to take any negative repercussions from it. Actually, we're going to win this place, and we're going to actually control it pretty much.
To counterpoint that real quick before we move on to kick, but if we had let the arms race continue and someone else dropped the bomb first, do you think they would have called the stop?
I don't know.
Would have gone that. So
that is too many variables for me to try and say yes or no, because there's so many things that could have changed.
Japan, who was consistently agreeing to terms and then purposefully breaking them so that they could, do terror. Then the Nazis, we all understand what the Nazis were and kind of their deal. So if one of them, or even Russia, dropped an atomic bomb or hydrogen bomb or whatever, would we be in the same issue? You said too many variables.
Yeah, because there's nothing to say. I don't think this was the only solution. Yes, maybe we could have even used the nukes, but maybe less populated towns display their destruction without the loss. Yes, you said we dropped pamphlets on them. Were they written in Japanese?
Yeah.
Were they?
Yeah,
okay.
It was multilingual.
Okay. Well, if I was standing in town and it fell out of the sky and I saw it, I probably would be like, what the hell is this shit? I'm not gonna.
Well, they stayed because in there was a strong nationalism, right? So they were like, "You need to stay. We need to stay."
But the fact that we gave them a heads up that we're going to murder a bunch of innocents doesn't make it okay. If we did that today,
it just makes it not a war crime.
Right. It doesn't. It takes away the technicality,
Yes.
which still doesn't make it acceptable to me.
Sure.
Same with. Shit, I lost my train of thought.
Okay.
So I think I said just about everything. I mean, it's still, to me, I think the apology is good. It's something, we should look back to the past so we don't repeat our mistakes. I think that's one thing that he is trying to do is President Obama, that is bring back the past and point it out to everybody and say, hey, we've really fucked up before. We're not perfect. We can change. We can be better. Let's not do this shit again. Because, if we were today, even with a non-nuclear bomb, if we were to drop pamphlets on a civilian city, even in a place we're fighting against, and we drop pamphlets saying, get out of there, we're going to bomb you, and we still bomb them, that'd still be unacceptable today. And it's compounded by the fact that it's a nuke. Last point, did we need to drop 2 of them? Would one have sufficed?
Tactically, yes, we did.
They didn't surrender after the first one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then also we hit them tactically to take away their strongholds, their biggest strongholds.
Gotcha.
So then they
Nagasaki and Hiroshima weren't just civilian towns.
Yeah.
They were part of the Japanese war machine.
they were the largest cities for their.
With an island that small, pretty much anywhere is going to be. I mean, let's be honest.
Just pick a spot.
Yeah.
Just throw a dart on a map. What about you, Kip?
Well,
what about you, Elliot?
I think killing people is bad.
Mm-hmm.
I think that projections can be either very accurate or very inaccurate. There's no way to know. As Cam said, that's not really something you can say, well, if we hadn't have done this, this would have happened. I mean, you project all you want, but for all we know, they could have just said, you know what, fuck this, we're surrendering the next day. Or, it could have gone on for another 50 years and we might have all nuked each other and exploded and died. That being said, I think that if anybody was ever going to use a nuke, we did it at the only time that would have had a conclusion that was as good as the conclusion that we came to, which was nobody else had the technology yet. Whereas now, if we go and start nuking the shit out of people, there's a pretty good chance that either them or somebody they're allied with is going to retaliate with the same thing. So,
or some kid in his basement.
Being able to just go, sorry, like, you're dead, but, like, that's the only time that could have ever been used. And yes, I think that it demonstrated a power of a weapon that everyone went, yeah, we probably shouldn't ever do that again.
Can I chime in real quick?
Yes.
You just brought up something that I really liked. So I think it really made a difference, the fact that we used it and then were a major part of getting them banned, I believe, right? Because we were a big proponent of the
we in Europe, the Britain and all that,
right?
We pushed it.
Had it been, not a world superpower at the time, or even quote one of the bad losers of the war or bad guys of the war that had done it, and then we try to put restrictions on it, they're going to say no, fuck you,
right?
Whereas since we were the ones that did it and went, shit, not anymore.
You see that? No one should ever do that.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess, okay, it's turned me around a little bit. Yes, I can see the more benefits that have come out of it. Still think it was an atrocity. Still think the apology was necessary.
Yes, definitely.
Back to you, Kim.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with all of that. I think that the apology being necessary, I don't know that's necessarily...
Maybe not necessary, but it's appreciated for me.
I think it's good to show solidarity with a country that we were once at war with, to just sort of reinforce the message of like, hey, we can all get along. Like, we bombed the fuck out of you 70 years ago, but we're cool now, right? Like, and the other guy's like, yeah, we're cool. And so, like, it's... I don't know. It just, like I say, if anybody was ever going to use one of those nukes, that was the only time that we could have done it, because there was a war going on, and we were like, bam, okay, see, nukes are bad, and nobody could be like, well, look at our nukes, we're going to use them on you now. It's like, it's like, okay, fuck, we're sorry, and then everything just kind of ended, and then we went, see, so we shouldn't use those.
What about you, Elliot?
So just one thing I think that we've missed is that when we dropped the nukes on Japan, and this kind of goes in line with what you were saying and their history and some of the stuff that they did in war and some of the atrocities that they've committed, Japan just wouldn't stop doing what they were doing. So yeah, we nuked them, but that wasn't it. We took away their right to even have a military. Yeah. Like they can't have that military because that mentality that they had was just too fucked up. And I still do agree that it was an atrocity. I don't think the apology was necessary, but it wasn't even really an apology. It was just kind of an affirmation that this was a terrible atrocity.
But you wouldn't say the apology is a bad thing. You don't think it was a poor decision by the...
I think if he went over there and said, I'm sorry that we dropped nukes on you 60 years ago, it'd be really fucking stupid.
Right.
It is a little pointless. I mean, to directly come out and say that, because okay, neither one of them or us or most other people had anything to do with that.
Right.
But he didn't, though. He didn't come out and say that. It was
you can be sorry.
And I want to read it / watch them, because I'm interested to hear the verbiage.
We can be sorry that loss of life had to happen, but the reasons it happened, I mean, they weighed the cause and effects going into it very heavily before it happened. And, we weren't there. Mm-hmm. And just for the statements on how we talk about or I think it was mostly you saying, Cam, and and him being there and saying we don't want to repeat these events. War today is much different than it was in the 1940s. And even the Civil War era, the evolution of war is just so intense. Soldiers used to line up and take turns shooting each other and gunning each other down. Then we started getting into
guerrilla warfare,
more of the guerrilla warfare. But still, even the European theater of World War II or World War I was all trench warfare. You had the East and the Western fronts. They're shelling the shit out of each other, charging with bayonets, hitting each other with maces. Cavalry charges with on horseback and swords, and they had machine guns in this era. World War II, the European theater, there was some urban warfare, but there was still a lot of big tank battles. They were dug in. They were firing on a uniformed military. Same with the Pacific theater, the island hopping. They were fighting the Japanese island for island, and you had a clear enemy. Now you look at the Middle East and what's going on there now. It's all guerrilla warfare. You're walking through just like a bazaar, for lack of a better word. And you've got civilians that are there shopping, getting food for their families, and you don't know that there's 5 terrorists or enemy combatants hiding out in like a house, just sitting there waiting for you to cross their path, and they just gun you down. Like, the war has changed so much. I don't think that nukes will happen in the Middle East because of that, because you don't know who your enemy is. They don't have big strongholds. You can't just drop a nuke on.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, there's not exactly a central location where you can say, here's where all terrorists are. Let's bomb that.
On
thing.
top of that, like the biggest ISIS players and whatnot, if we were going to call them, ISIS whatnot, actually build their silos and stuff in schools. So they launch missiles from schools. Mm-hmm. So you take your kid to school, and it's just accepted that there is a missile launcher, a SAM site or what have you, in the building. So if you're going to
they're
stop
using
them,
our own war crime rules against us,
exactly.
Basically. So they found the loophole. They just wow.
I mean, we had the Cold War. We had the big arms race with us and Russia.
Soviet Russia.
COD drives you.
And I mean, there's a reason none of those nukes went off. And I think that was probably the height of the nuclear threat. And I don't think it's anything we really have to worry for a long time. Mm-hmm. Unless, I think in our lifetimes we're probably good, unless we do get somebody in office who's just a fucking idiot and talks the wrong shit.
Well, that's only like on our end. What about overseas?
Well,
if someone else gets empowered,
if somebody else
and they get
gets
codes.
I think if somebody,
look at all these American cities.
Do we really want North America? No, let's bomb the shit out of it and let it be radioactive.
I think if a terrorist cell gets their hands on a nuke and is able to do anything with it, because we have NATO in place. Because Russia's chomping at the bit to fucking glass somebody.
It's true.
Aren't they all?
They want to fight.
They really don't.
You have fucking vodka and snow and bears, and you just want to destroy everybody.
They're just staring at a button all day, just like, man, I'll fucking press that button.
That at one point I think, because Russia and China are allies, right?
I don't know.
I believe that they are. Something was coming about a couple of years back where the Chinese were going to start putting combatants into like the Middle East or helping out, and kind of my argument was at the time, because there's a lot of issues between the U.S. and China, and the last thing you want is their military to actually have any experience, because like we've got experience. They might have more guys, but it's quality over quantity to an extent. But I think if one of these terrorist cells were to do anything with a nuke in any of our allied countries or NATO or Russia or anywhere in Europe, I think the Middle East is gonna get fucked really hard. I
agree with that. I mean, it seems pretty obvious that whoever ends up, just because of the technology that we have access to and the experience of being a war country for for pretty much our entire existence, is that we are like, if anything does happen to us on our own, like there's always I don't want to say an overreaction, but a reaction that is
repercussion,
a knee-jerk reaction that
it's not even that. It's like whatever they do, I know that the U.S. is going to find a reason to do something way bigger.
I think as far as this goes, with like terrorism and NATO, I don't think it'll be us pulling the trigger. I think everybody in the world is going to turn and say, okay, we've been trying to do it right for this many years. And
what if, hypothetically, North Korea got access to nukes?
Oh, they'd be fucked, dude. South Korea would destroy North Korea.
What if China then allied with them?
In that case, if we go back to like a World War II style,
do you think that would cause a world war?
I think Axis and allies type warfare, would.
Hold on, because you're just saying if they got a hold of them,
if they got
right?
nukes,
We're assuming
they wanted to use them to threaten.
The biggest deal with
they do
previous
that right now.
Yeah, they do that right now. The biggest deal with previous world wars was that there was an active invasion,
right,
somewhere. So
is that what classifies a world war?
Well, when
is there a certain
when more countries than X amount join, it becomes World War.
I think China and North Korea pretty much hate each other anyways.
I don't know.
But
I was just throwing out a hypothetical
the point
situation.
being is that it won't be World War III.
The point I was just trying to make is that you were focusing on terrorists,
Right.
whereas it could be a civilized country
Right.
that would be using them instead.
No,
But
and that's what I'm more scared
if
of.
If Korea or China or whomever else decides that they're going to start taking over other places, everyone is going to be in a hubbub, whether they agree with them or not. Like if Russia and China are on board with Korea starting to take over South Korea, then everybody at the UN and in the US and even Canada or whatnot, like
we can't
even
help but
Australians
get involved with.
Yeah, we're gonna be like, whoa.
So no matter who goes against who, if
Yeah.
nukes start flying, then everybody's.
It's pretty much Jerry Springer and more put together.
Right.
Only concerning war.
Cameron, as far as what I'm saying, that the extent of what I'm saying only goes as far as to how war is today, and that is with.
No, you made many good points. I was just trying to bring up another.
No, I'm kind of agreeing, because if that were to happen, if we went into like an actual world war, then definitely I think things would be much different. And if somebody started pointing nukes somewhere and everybody just started launching them, then I mean we'd have
I think the world war would end sooner than any other war ever.
I don't think that if somebody started firing off nukes, I don't think that everybody would necessarily retaliate with nukes.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, there's no country anywhere that has so many installations of so many nukes in so many different places that you would have to nuke an entire country to neutralize that threat.
We don't know that. Nobody's
going to have enough nukes to do enough damage to us for us not to nuke the shit out of them.
Well, what I mean is like the retaliation that's necessary isn't necessarily enough. Like we don't have to just be like, well, they used a nuke, so now we have to use a nuke.
Right.
Honestly, I think that if anyone uses a nuke against the U.S. or any of our allies, we would probably take that as an initiative to become imperialists. I think that would wind up happening. I think that we would wind up using a social issue.
New
saying,
World Order?
Hey, they're trying to take over, South Korea, and let's go stop them. Oh, they're going to try and shoot a nuke at us. It's a real big issue. Then an entire nation will get behind it. Because this is another thing. We haven't been in an actual war since Vietnam. Everything's been a conflict. Mm-hmm. We've always been in a conflict. We haven't agreed or declared a war against anything unless it's a concept like drugs. Or, like the war on drugs or the war on terrorism.
Which we absolutely won.
Yeah. What the fuck does that mean?
See you later, drugs.
But they're all conflicts. Everything that we've been in since Vietnam has been a conflict, which means that you don't actually need all of the branches to, agree and be on board. And you don't need the nation to be on board. You can give a fuck, But beforehand, especially with World War II, everyone was on board. You changed all the factories to become, to help the war machine and stuff like that. And it put, it was economically kind of shitty and cutting it close for a lot of families. But afterwards, when you actually won, there was such a huge, the baby boomers, we had everything kind of, flourish, and it was prosperity. But if someone threatens, legitimately threatens to use...
If someone other than North Korea threatens
to use a nuke, and they do plan on taking over somebody else, then it will escalate either quickly or otherwise gradually, to where the U.S. and our allies will decide we're going to take everything else over, and then it'll be under some sort of
Well, that's what I mean.
law.
If somebody shoots a nuke and it hits, let's say, Florida, and
Sure.
we lose all our old people,
Pennsylvania or something.
whatever, wherever they decide
Sure.
to target. Let's say one drops and they go, "Oh, what do you think about that?"
Yeah.
I don't think that the U.S. reaction would be, "Well, now we're going to shoot one at you."
Right, yeah.
I think that
agree.
it would be exactly what you said,
Yeah.
which is everybody other than that country is going to go, "Yeah, so you can't do that."
So sort of.
Unless
I think
gonna be a
that
country
unless they're
anymore.
allied
I think if-
or whatever. I'm saying like the big ones, that are similarly structured as us, which is you don't just shoot nukes at someone because you don't like them. Then that sort of collective will decide to disarm it in one way or another.
Before, when you said that the U.S. will retaliate with something bigger, right? I think that it would become we get hit with a nuke. Let's say it's Puerto Rico, something that's not even ours, but it's ours.
Right. Well, it's ours, but not a state.
Yeah, and so
it's ours,
I
but
think
we're ruining it.
Basically, yeah.
I think that the U.S. would not retaliate with nukes, but I think that we would be like, all right, all of our allies are on board to take over this and do like we did with the Japanese and whatnot. Only we're going to collectively own it. On top of that, we should stop all the people who are sympathizers with them. So I don't think that we would retaliate to Korea specifically. I think that what you were saying is more accurate. I think that our allies and stuff would be, put the kibosh on it, that's the word. But I think that the U.S. would go after Russia and China and, any other country that may, Iran, anyone who says, yeah, we have the capability to do these things, we would go, if you don't hand over your sovereignty, we'll blow you up. I think that that's what we would want to do.
I don't think they would. What I mean is that I don't think that they would use nukes anyway. Like if they said we're going to blow you up, I don't think nukes are going to be what's blowing them up. Like we have a million other ways to explode shit that would not cause the worldwide
the environmental
damage.
Well, environmental, and also if we start nuking the shit out of everybody, then there are going to be allies that we're going to lose because of that.
Depending, because you can do quite a lot with a social movement. Which is, back. So if you get everyone on the same page going, oh, it's such an atrocity that they took out Pennsylvania or Florida, then you'll be like, is everyone on board for us dropping this fucking nuke? And you'll see the worst part of humanity because everyone will go, yeah, I feel pretty good about this. Go ahead, Trump. Go ahead. So
I don't think unless somebody starts flinging like hundreds of nukes at us, like I agree, I don't think that we're going to start sending them back because I think most countries. Like if somewhere in the Middle East or somebody who hates the U.S. was able to get their hands on a nuke and set it off, we don't have to nuke them back because they used their
the
one
nuke. Is like us using a nuke. I can only see in a situation where they're doing so much destructively to us that we have to neutralize like a large part of their country like today. Or
basically
else,
what you were talking about.
Or else we're going to exponentially lose lives in the United States.
I stick with it being the reason why the U.S. and our allies would use as a catalyst for becoming an imperialist again, because we've been trying to do the economic race and it hasn't been working for us. So I think that conspiracy wise, this is me going into conspiracy a little bit, but Bush tried to start it. With a lot of hyping of terror and terrorists, and there's all this fear mongering,
and ironically, then
stuff like
actually caused it.
Yeah, and then no,
isn't that fun
it's
for
not
him?
Ironic. It was purposeful. I believe that's again the conspiracy.
I don't think that he did it on purpose. I think that he tried to fake it and then accidentally did it on purpose.
I think that his cabinet, like his administration, was, which I believe is how any presidency works. Their administration runs it, and the president is the foreman.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So, when you have a bunch of smart minds going, how can we? Because war is a great profiting.
And that was their short-term goal.
Yeah, and so
then their short-term goal.
I think the long-term goal was the invasion of other countries without being the bad guy. So being German and stuff. But we got to wrap this up pretty soon. Any last thoughts?
No, I think we wrapped that up pretty well.
Oh, dude.
I appreciate the apology, but
apology.
I've learned a lot.
Sorry,
today.
not sorry.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything that's been said today.
As a Japanese
sorry, not sorry.
man,
Says Obama.
I appreciate what Obama did. But you guys didn't know that. I was Japanese.
So what?
Oh, one thing I would like to say is the internment camps, right?
Missed what you said.
That is something that should be apologized for and has been apologized
absolutely.
for, right? But dropping a nuke... Oh, my opinion on this whole thing. I think that it was a good thing to do.
I guess they're too comparable for me to say one's okay and one's not.
I think they're both awful for different reasons.
Yes, I think the internment camp was terrible because it was a nation being afraid of possible spies. I think that the dropping of the bombs was terrible for those who were innocent, but even those who were innocent were attributing to a terrible movement. In the way that they were doing it. And it wouldn't, I agree with Elliot, it would not have stopped if we were just like, no, because now we're going to go to land war with you or naval war with you. It would not have stopped. It would have caused many more deaths. And I think that everyone was on the verge of that technological breakthrough. I think that we hit it first. And I think that it was a terrible thing, but it needed to happen so that everyone would have been shocked and stopped.
Yeah, that's like what I was saying. I mean, it's like it had to happen when it happened.
Exactly.
Or else it would not have had the same effect.
Romantic, isn't it?
Thank you for listening to Loud, Confused, and Ready, and also watching. If you want to watch a video of ours other than this one, you may go here. Or also, you may also click on this one as well. Thank you again, and have a pleasant day. And don't forget to like and comment and subscribe. And don't forget to enjoy your day.